Alberto, your energy is unmatched. Let's just say that.
I try. It's a lot of Diet Dr. Pepper. I have to tell you, it's a lot of Diet Dr. Pepper. It's like barrels and barrels of Diet Dr. Pepper. So.
Anne Marie, he makes me look quiet.
It's hard to do.
I'm so happy. Anytime you want to come to my class, whatever you want to do, I'll be a church mouse. It's great. Thank goodness.
All right. So we're just going to ask for everyone to stay muted until the question and answer portion of the webinar. If you're all, I don't know if some of you aren't familiar with WebEx, on the bottom, you'll see a mute button. Stop. Well, that's not really for you, but you'll see the mute button, and you'll see the chat. The chat's on the lower right. So the chat is how, because we're keeping you muted, it's how you can ask questions throughout, and then we're gonna address that and get to that. So, okay, so we're at the 2:03 mark. So we're gonna officially start. Welcome to the first of 3 webinars hosted and sponsored by the Macro Social Work Student Network of ACOSA. So if any of you interpret MSWSN, Macro Social Work Student Network, or ACOSA as Sanskrit, let me explain what those are. So the Macro Social Worker Student Network is a really great group of social work students that are committed to macro. Some of them aren't macro, maybe they're studying to be a clinician, but you know what? They realize that macro is important. It's underrepresented, it needs a voice, and so they're working with other macro students to start Macro Social Work Student Network chapters, which we'll talk more about, and other activities, practices, so that we can further macro practice. So that's the Macro Social Work Student Network in a nutshell. And we are under the umbrella of ACOSA, the Association of Community Organization and Social Action. And ACOSA is a really wonderful organization that is puts macro practice at the forefront, and that's for advocating for students, instructors, practitioners, on making sure that macro practice is integrated into the social work profession and that we're advancing this field. So that's MSWSN and ACOSA. I'm going to, my name is Alberto Cifuentes Jr. I am a doctoral candidate and graduate assistant at the University of Connecticut School of Social Work. And I'm also involved with my own Macro Social Workers Network down at MSW Connecticut. And I'm one of the liaisons. I'm gonna pass this to my other liaison, Tamari, as she introduces herself.
Thanks, Alberto. My name is Tamari Willis. I am from Wayne State University in the great city of Detroit, Michigan. I am also a PhD candidate like Alberto, and my research interest is around incarceration, mental health and substance use. So my role today will be to kind of monitor the chat. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please put them in the chat box, and I can cut the questions, and towards the end, I'll make sure that as many questions as possible are answered. And so what we want to do with this call and moving forward is just to ensure that we know that at the start of the school year or at the end of the school year, as people graduate from programs, that we tend to lose contact with the main contact person if they leave the school or whatever. We kind of want to just make sure that every academic year we renew memberships with the universities or colleges and their memberships with the Macro Social Work Student Network. So, pretty flexible. We really are here to kind of really assist the students in their goals towards social action within their own communities and within their universities. And so we want to be that resource for you to kind of offer help around issues within, as far as job training, skills and things like that you might need to kind of become good practitioners upon graduation. We're going to have 2 other national calls in the upcoming school year. And so we're going to keep engaged and be aware of that. Right now, over to Becky.
Great. Good afternoon. Thank you. I am calling in, so I'm hoping thumbs up if you can hear me all right. And I'll get started. I'm Becky Sanders, and I am currently a field advisor at Silberman School of Social Work, Hunter College in New York City, and a longtime member of ACOSA and former chair. And I'm just delighted to support this group and the leadership of Tamara and Alberto. If you were here at the very beginning, that kind of ease and fun and energy for the work is what I get out of supporting the Macro Social Work Student Network. And I have had colleagues from ACOSA since, I got my MSW in the late 80s, to date myself. So it's a wonderful network to join, just connections to make that you may already experience, but I can testify that they can be throughout your professional life. So welcome. Today, I'm going to do a brief, there is a PowerPoint, which I'll try to switch to. And I'm just going to lay out sort of the barest minimum frame, and then we want to get right to student speakers from two chapters that exist, one at Monmouth University and one at New York University Silver School of Social Work. And so that you can hear directly from students on how they, what their club is like, how it got started, et cetera. Because some of those speakers need to leave, we start there. And then we'll have a time to connect, brainstorm, do questions and answers. Typically, we do intros first and spend time building community, but we just are flipping that today. So hang on to your questions. And if there are other chapters represented on this call, we had, I think, over 21 schools sign up and over 50 people register. Some may have clubs. We'd also like to hear your story after the two students, after the students from the two schools present, if that makes sense. So is that good? We'll get going. I will share my screen here, hopefully. Is that, yeah? Oh, good. That was, we're getting there. Let's see, slideshow from the beginning. So let's see, here we go. Is that good? Are we all good, Alberto? Great. All right. So this is us. We've done some of this. I'm still learning the lag. It seems like there's a lag here. There we go. We've done the logistics. We are going to post this, and we do this on our page at ACOSA. This is our agenda. So this is the part. Be ready to participate. So a lot of people say, what is the Macro Social Work Student Network? How do I get going? That keeps coming up when we do these webinars every year. There's no magic and there's no one way. So if you've been exposed to sort of macro practice already or organizing, it's just what's the energy? What's the reason you want to get together? And some of the reasons we just brainstormed are up there. I actually found out about the Macro Social Work Student Network when I was at Cal State Long Beach as field director, and students came to me and had found it online and said, we want one here. I knew nothing about it. It was a generalist program, and they basically had two reasons for wanting it. One is to learn more about what does macro practice mean, because their curriculum, while it was generalist, sort of didn't have the kind of breadth of experience. And the second reason was they wanted to actually experience macro work. If they were clinicians, they wanted to learn how to do advocacy or go canvass for tenant right legislation. So, but there are other reasons, and every club will be different, and you'll hear some of that in the examples later. And it can also change from year to year. One of the ways, one of the early techniques that groups did to get started would they'd print up these templates, and they just in classrooms or in student meetings and gathering spaces, they would just, each individual would fill out why it matters, and they'd start collecting ideas and visibility. These kinds of tools and templates that other schools have used, we want to collect and put on our resource page. So when we hear from you all about what works, what doesn't, if you have tools like this that you'd be willing to share, ways you got started organizing techniques, we'd love to post them and share them, because a lot of our role is to amplify what you all are doing. Again, different clubs look different. Some are, you know, some are just in graduate programs. Some only do students. Some are open to faculty and staff. Some involve students from other schools on campus. So again, it's gonna really depend. And then some clubs that we've heard of are just informal. They're sort of like a, you know, a meetup group. They might get together for discussion or information sharing and maybe go to an action together or whatever. And then some groups are are not very formal, but they're formalized with a constitution and bylaws. And oftentimes that means they get resources from the university because they become an official club. So, you know, who, why, what does it look like? It can vary. But I think y'all will get that the core elements are sort of pretty basic. You know, we're here to uphold and operate according to, you know, our code of ethics, but even beyond the sort of mandates for social justice and action that are within those code of ethics, and also to raise visibility, around macro practice. And have an experience of leadership. I mean, another element is we anticipate as we support you all that you will both share your knowledge, learn, and then help others coming along. Again, these slides will be available, lots of sources of support. I'm going to skip through. And then the slides will also give an example of some goal statements and mission statements from a chapter that allowed us to share their information, University of Tennessee, Knoxville. And they have a manual that will be posted on our webpage of just sort of their bylaws and how they operate. One of their goals was to raise money to attend the social work day at the UN every year. Used to be in the spring, and that was one of their organizing efforts. And you're going to get to hear about today, I'm excited, Monmouth University offered us their flyer and also their constitution, and you'll be hearing shortly from them. And here we are. Again, I hope, let's see where we are in time. Yeah, we wanted to leave about 10 minutes for each group to go. The prompt questions are up, but please, Hannah and Courtney, if you'll start us off from Monmouth and just introduce us to your club and how it got started, you know, what your purpose is, and just any tips and strategies you can share. If they're there, I should have actually checked. Is Hannah and Courtney there, Alberto?
Hi, I was muted. I always forget to unmute myself when I start talking. Don't even realize no one can hear me. Hi, I'm Hannah. I am a graduate student at Monmouth University studying macro social work. Our concentration is global and community practice. And the club that I'm in is the Global and Community Practice Action Group. So our club was started last year by a diverse little group of students. We had some graduate students as well as some underclassmen. They worked with Dr. Deepak at our school. She is a professor who focuses on macro social work, and she really gave them a lot of guidance. I got involved with the club over the summer, and right now I am the social media chair. So I run our Instagram account. The handle is MU_GCP_actions. I believe, now I'm worried I'm saying it right, but if you want to follow us, you can check us out there. So our mission and purpose was put on the screen, but I'll just go over that a little bit. So the mission of the group in our constitution was to develop a diverse network of undergraduate as well as graduate students with an interest in advocating and advancing human rights and social justice throughout our local communities. We're a student-run organization, but we're also interdisciplinary, so you don't have to be a social work student at our school to join this club. In fact, our president, who was unable to make it to this meeting today, is an accounting major, which I think is just a really cool thing about the club because, you know, social workers are not the only people who can and do care about social justice and human rights. So I think it's great that we're able to create a network that is interdisciplinary. The purpose of the group is to promote growth, understanding, and awareness of community development, as well as provide and support a community-infused co-curricular experience at our school by engaging in projects with local vulnerable communities. We have quite a few plans right now, like a food drive, coat drive, beach cleanup that we're hoping to also collaborate with other student organizations. And we also wanted to do a harm reduction event where we brought NJ Harm Reduction. They're a nonprofit organization based in New Brunswick, New Jersey, to our campus to talk about what they do, because the opioid epidemic is a really prevalent thing, you know, in all of America, but especially New Jersey, that's only been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. We're currently working on a grant request from the Student Activities Board because COVID has made getting money for clubs pretty difficult. So we're figuring that out. And yeah, our main goal at this time is recruitment. I saw sustainability up there on the PowerPoint. That is a really important thing for clubs. You know, it's okay for the clubs to change and evolve. A lot of our ideas for this year were different than the club's ideas for last year, and that's fine. Our main goal is just to make sure that even if it changes, that it just lives on. So that's our main goal right now, is figuring out recruitment and connection, especially from underclassmen, you know, during these very unprecedented circumstances. Yeah, and Courtney and Amelia, who's also here, are two new members to the club that I'm just so excited to have on board. Yeah, and I'm just really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great. I don't know if Courtney and Emily would like to just say, why did you join? Because that might give us some insight. Since you're new members, what drew you to the club?
Sure, I don't mind sharing. Hi, everyone. My name's Courtney. Yes, literally just joined this group probably last week. So still, you know, learning the meaning behind it, as well as obviously how it started. But being a grad student and the specific concentration that Hannah's in, I just wanted to get connected. I wanted to meet new people, build that network, as well as, again, hopefully go to events that connect our community together. And I think this is kind of the mission of this specific group. So again, looking forward to obviously all the events and connections I make throughout this year, and I'm excited.
Great. Thank you. And there was another, I didn't catch who else was with us.
Hi, that's me. My name's Amelia. You guys can call me Emmy. And I just joined yesterday. Yesterday, right? Yeah. So, but the same as Courtney, I kind of just wanted to meet other students and you know, build connections. And something that really drew me to this club is that they were planning a beach cleanup, and I really wanted to get involved with volunteer work, especially through my own university down at the Jersey Shore. So yeah, I'm really excited for all of the events and to meet new people, even if it's virtually. I'm really excited to be part of this group.
Great, thank you. And if we could then, is Ashma or Sarah on? And if we could hear a little bit about NU Silver School of Social Work. Not sure if they're any, let's see. not here. Don't know if you can see Alberto or Tamarie, if Ashma or Sarah are on. Does not.
No, I don't see them.
Okay. We're actually, is there anybody else from a club online? I was thinking we could hear from people with chapters. I know, Tamarie, you supported chapters in the past at Wayne State. I don't know if Wayne State has some, and I can certainly, well, I've sort of mentioned the Cal State Long Beach Club, but if there's any space, you know, I'd love to leave space for any students here that are part of a club already. And you can unmute or say in the chat. Okay. Well, then the time here is wide open for what I'm wondering about, and Alberto and Tamarie, see what you think. We're a small
I just wanted
group.
to mention, Becky, I just want to mention that one person says they would like to start a chapter at USC. So there definitely is interest in starting a chapter.
Great, great. I'm just wondering if that's where I was thinking of going. We're a small enough group and we're ahead of schedule without the second presentation, because I wanted to make sure to leave space in case, because they were part of the group that has to sign off. Do we want to just take a moment to go around who's here? And if you have specific questions, USC's in the house. I know some others. If you want to either pose a question and then we can just open the session up, because again, there may be those of us can speak from experience, or we can brainstorm together how to support each other in getting this started, because that's basically what the network's for. How can we help you? We're going to try to connect up with, have a resource group of people that can consult throughout the year besides the three of us. But what do you think, Tamarie and Alberto, about just having people quickly say hi and where they're from, and then if they have a question or want to share where they're at with thinking about this?
I think it's a good idea. These questions are coming into the chat around specifics and starting your own group. So I think that's a good idea.
Great. Does anybody want to be the brave soul to just introduce yourself and your school that we haven't heard from, and what brought you here today? Like, just where's your interest?
Well, since I'm a professor and not a student, I'll let them off the hook. Hello, I'm really here because of Tamarie. I'm Judith Weinman. I teach at the Wayne State University School of Social Work in Detroit. And I'm very happy to see folks from Hunter. I went to Columbia. I'm from New York, so I hope things are going well there. I'm a lifelong macro practitioner, and so was my great joy to run into Tamarie some years ago and really try to rebuild the Wayne State. Ours is called the CCSW, the Coalition for Community Social Work. We did it together every step of the way. It sort of got dumped in our lap in the summer of 2015. And now this is I think I heard someone say that not all of your groups require that you be social work. I couldn't support that more. We have a sophomore at the university who we're trying to bring to social work, but this guy is like a demon. You know, he is like our biggest advocate. He gets involved in everything, and he's planning, what the heck is it? He's planning a thing called Social Work Legends so that people can be exposed to these guys who did stuff in the 60s. So I couldn't agree more that it also is good for your school, but I couldn't agree more that to have that sort of reputation or that reach throughout your communities. I mean, Detroit is a very, you know, we are an urban center. But I will say that for us, the most difficult thing, here I'm going to throw this in for you, Tamarie, now that Tamarie's not involved anymore. The most difficult thing, I think, is really ensuring that from year to year, we have leadership. And so far, it's the last, 3 years, it's really been terrific because we recruit bachelor students. But I would be delighted, you know, to hear from anyone who has any insights on this. We did miss getting our form in. So I don't know whether, I know Lawrence Robinson is on the call, but we still need to send it in. So I guess that's it. One other thing I just wanted to say to those of you on the call is that one of the things our group is doing, and they're completely immersed in right now, which is why we're sort of slow, is we have a program at Wayne State called Social Work Votes. Will be active now through the election and then beyond. And on the 26th, which is next Saturday, and I just met Alberto at the Tennessee school, we are having a campaign school at Wayne State. And I think if it's okay, it's okay, I'm in charge, but I'd be happy to send you all the link or send it to Tamarie and Alberto and they can pass it on. It's from 10 to 2 next Saturday. Our favorite person in the world, Tanya Rhodes-Smith, is keynoting. We are talking primarily about election protection and suppression, especially in the city of Detroit, but it really applies to all urban areas. So we'd be delighted to have you. We're going to have breakouts, and hopefully students are going to get together, both macro and micro, and come up with takeaway action items that they will be doing between now and the election. So thank you for the chance to speak. And yeah, Tamarie, can I send you the link? I don't really know how to do it otherwise. Or Lawrence can do it.
Okay. You can send it to me.
Okay.
It's fine. Yeah.
I got to get it from Betsy.
Great. And you actually jumped. Thank you so much for mentioning voting. We have that. There's a few more slides at the end. But absolutely, Social Work Votes at Columbia and Bryn Mawr are actually doing phone banking for groups on the ground in Pennsylvania and Florida.
Yeah.
And also, but also thinking about it long term. It's for this big, this big election in November, but also just to build make room in social work education for voting, again, mobilization, exactly what you said. And that can be a way to organize a group. So holding voter registration fairs or teach-ins or helping local groups get out the vote, all of those can be great organizing strategies. So thank you for opening that door. That's
You're
great.
welcome. I think that, I just wanted to add one thing. I think the best thing I heard the last, I don't know how long, may have come from Tanya, I'm not sure, but I've been saying this to my micro students. Voting is a social work intervention. I just love it. It's the first time I've really heard it integrated. So yeah, I just think hopefully now, after all these years in the field, we're seeing an integration of this kind of stuff in our work in social justice.
Yeah. Great. Is somebody else out there who'd like to check in and say, where you're from and why you're here, and if you have a question or something you want to pose to the group?
Hi, this is Gokul Manji. I'm a faculty member from Rhode Island College.
Great.
And I used to be in the West Coast and then moved to the East Coast. So I really appreciate the work of the Macro Student Network chapters and ACOSA and all that stuff. We do have a significant number of students in the macro specialization, as we like to call it here. But my hunch is we are bubbling up towards a situation where a chapter might be ideal. But how does one sort of gauge the time when you're ready to a chapter? And I kind of heard that the chapters come in various shapes and sizes. So any thoughts on that? And also, I just wanted to share that, my particular interest and passion with this group is really looking at the intersection of business and social work practice, as in like social entrepreneurship and stuff like that, and corporate social responsibility and shared value and all that good stuff. So I'm kind of wondering, how do we also promote those things, maybe through this chapter or not? Sorry, too many questions.
Not at all. Does anybody have want to jump in with that? I can just touch on it, but let me say that this one webinar isn't everything. We'd be happy to consult, and we're going to build a consulting pool. So anybody who would like this sort of ongoing, have this conversation ongoing, that, you know, please email, let us know, and we will be available. But, you know, again, you know, now there's no one right way. I can speak to, at Cal State Long Beach, it really was I don't think there's no gauging when is it of interest, but I think the critical thing there was not limiting it to macro specialization students, but trying to frame it that it's really, there's no silos here. It's really trying to make it relevant to all students. And then actually what we found is the macro, again, there wasn't a concentration at Long Beach, but the macro-oriented students were the leaders, right? Because they were more comfortable and familiar with the skills, perhaps, and were more committed to that level of practice. So they actually, you know, could craft why this for other audiences like clinical students, or, you know, again, if it's undergraduate, graduate, or it sounds like maybe, I don't know if Rhode Island College has undergraduates, but the business school, given your interest, you know, you might want to connect up with Monmouth, because I just loved that model of being interprofessional across a campus. You know, again, all our campuses are different, but that to me may be something also to think about at Rhode Island College. But formality, in my experience, which is limited, I don't know all the clubs, I've just sort of been around the longest in touching them. So in my experience, formality really is for funding and sometimes continuity. We recommend absolutely a faculty champion, ally, advisor, and that's actually how we stay in touch with you, because the students, like you all, when you graduate, aren't going to answer our emails necessarily unless you give us new ones. So we often now, we ask for a faculty contact or a staff contact. So the formality of a chapter or a club, I think, is really, can be driven by many things. I just wouldn't let it limit you. It sounds like you may already be doing much of the organizing start already at Rhode Island College, but I don't know if the other folks have comments.
Thank you for that. I wouldn't say that it's been officially started, but it's, as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of bubbling up. Yes, we do have an undergraduate program, and you know, we sort of gauged a feel for interest, you know, in this topical area among BSWs. It's still sort of unclear. We do have an interprofessional educational endeavor with Brown University, but again, very medically oriented. I would also want to include, you know, people from the business sphere and things like that. So that's a whole different arena that I probably will have to pursue at some point in time. I'm definitely, you know, willing to hear from Monmouth and other schools that have sort of well-established chapters, and any and every guidance would be useful. Thank you.
Yeah. And actually, you just jogged my memory. I should also represent for Silberman, and who was one of the founding schools, because actually it came out of classroom project. So they had a CO class, and they had projects that they had to choose. And so it originally got started because it was a classroom assignment that helped lay the groundwork for an organizing effort for a macro social work student network. And then they linked with students at UConn and University of Maryland. And I think I might be forgetting the other school. So that's another route in.
Thank
and
you.
We'll stay in touch. I will definitely follow up.
Thank you.
Other introductions. And even if you don't know if you're going to start a chapter, we'd love to know why you're here and what your interest is.
So there was a question on in the chat, Becky, and it was, let's see. It was, is there a concrete process in starting a chapter through a COSA, or can we just start one on our own? So kind of asking, does it have to be like a formal pure COSA, or can they start one at their own institution and then join up with a COSA?
Well, you can answer that. Go for it, Tamara.
Sure. And so I think what we're kind of seeing here is that typically what happens is across the country, across the nations, different institutions kind of take on different like issues or problems they want to tackle and address. The gentleman who just kind of spoke mentioned that they're kind of lie more within social entrepreneurship. Some lie within community organizing. Some are more like politics oriented around voting. Some are more around beach cleanups or feeding the hungry or the homeless. And so the issues are varied, and can whatever program you want to start within your own school can address whatever issue you feel you need to address. But definitely you can start a club within your own institution with that name. And then once that's established, you can then kind of just sign up under the Macro Social Student Network umbrella. You can keep your name, keep your mission, keep your values, keep whatever issues you choose to engage in and attempt to address. But yeah, so it can look different based on institution, but definitely can start your own within your own institution, and then just sign up for the COSA and such. But I think it was, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your name. You had your hand raised. WHAJ.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry. What is your name?
Hi, my name is Wihaj. I don't see any one picture or video. I just see letters, so I just want to make sure there is no connection problem. Yeah, I just see letters. I don't see anyone faces. So my name is Wihaj. I am a second year MSW student at USC. My focus of study is in social change and innovation. I do my internship at USC Wellbeing Project under Professor Morali Nair supervision. And I just actually launched an initiative called Goodbye Data. You can look it up on Google, to implement technology for macro social work practice and nonprofit organizations. And I am very interested to start a chapter for the macro social work student network at USC. I saw that you have tips about how to continue a chapter, but I don't know if the PowerPoint has also steps about how to start a brand new chapter at a university, because I am very interested and I would like to work on that. Let me know if you have any question. Thank you.
Great. And I'll ask, I hope I'm not still sharing my screen, because I'm seeing everybody.
Oh, I don't see, I don't know why.
So on the top right of the screen, sort of like near participants, there's the grid view. There's like a view just to see a single participant. And then there's the one to see the active speaker. You might want to play with those settings just to see, in terms of what the best viewing is.
Okay, it's my first time to use WebEx, so I'm not familiar with it, but thank you. I'll play with it till it works.
Okay.
Great. And we're recording this, so you'll get to see the folks that have cameras on. I do notice, not everybody, we all have been adapting to Zoom and how weary it is sometimes to see a gallery of faces. But the PowerPoint is very general about beginning a chapter. So we really did want to reserve this webinar for that topic because it comes up every year. And what I'd say is we'd love to follow up with you and support you thinking through it, because every club starts differently. And so that can be a frustrating answer, but if that's part of the puzzle, it's organizing at its best, right? So what's the energy? What's the interest? Get a couple of people together that are animated as well, and plan. Again, the Long Beach chapter, the challenge they faced was, again, they were a generalist program, so they weren't really aware of macro, but they knew it was out there. And it's largely a commuter campus, so none of the cohorts of bachelor's or different kinds of graduate programs met on campus at the same time. So they actually had to figure out what to do when they're not nobody was on campus the same day, so they couldn't sort of meet with each other. So they actually organized totally virtually, and they kept it very simple. They didn't have much time, so they just did one event in the fall, which was what is macro practice, and they'd pull in practitioners, they'd pull in field instructors, and it was sort of a mixer and a just introduction to what it is and what it can look like. And then in the spring, they would do a community-based connector where faculty, students, and the community met in like a community-owned co-op art gallery, and community groups had time to explain how they operate at the macro level for social work practice. And that was it. So that's all they could do. That's all they had bandwidth to do. And they may have migrated into some other purposes, but I think it can be as simple, and that's what's challenging. There's no recipe for starting, but we, ACOSA, sort of took on supporting the network because we did know it takes support and maybe some thought partners. And that's what we want to offer. So we're happy to help you think through it.
And also to kind of piggyback what Becky's saying is kind of think about very generally, one, why do you want to start a group? Two, what do you want to accomplish? And so I think kind of having those two kind of questions answered are the first two important things to kind of really figure out. A group can be 2 or 3 people. It can be 10, 15, or 20, right? It doesn't have to be a set number of individuals. When we were at Wayne State, some groups started off like with 30 people, and by the end of the school year, we're down to like 5 people who dedicated to continue working in the group, right? So it can be a group of 2 people working towards a certain goal they wish to address within that school year. We recommend that you have within that group and also the staff or faculty a part of it for continuity purposes. We talked about that earlier. So if someone graduates, then we still have contact with the group if it should pass down to like undergraduates or so on and so forth. But definitely ask yourself, 1, why do you want to start a group? And 2, what do you want to accomplish? And just know that it doesn't have to be 20 people. It can be 3 or 4 people who want to address a certain issue or bring to the forefront a certain issue that they feel is important. And that issue can range from homelessness to incarceration, to voting, to social entrepreneurship. There's a range of what you can address within these groups.
Great.
The only other thing I want to say is I think it's important to tailor it to your school. So, make it responsive to the needs of students. Get a feel for the culture of your school. Like, what are the issues that your school is, a student body really cares about? Maybe it's systemic racism. I did a poll of 20 of my students from my class, and I kind of like, what are the issues that really matter to you? Or what are the issues that are really a big concern? Systemic racism was one of them. Homelessness was another one of them. So if I were to start an MSWSN chapter within that group of 20, I would say, this is what we can anchor our activities around. This is what we can anchor our organizing, whether it be more policy oriented, whether it be more organizing oriented. So do like a needs assessment. I think and it doesn't need to be in depth. It can be like really quick. You can do it like just kind of like orally in person, just ask people. It doesn't need to be anything formalized. Get a sense, because people are going to participate and they're going to feel engaged when they feel that the issues really speak to them, or they feel that the activities really respond to them, or are going to make them better social work practitioners. So there's another tip in making this relevant. I think Tamarie's right. You can do it with 2 students. You can do it with 20. What matters is that you have a group of students who are committed to the work and that you delegate it well. So maybe I like the idea of having like a chair or co-chairs, a secretary and a treasurer, and then having like these other members that are in charge of certain tasks. So maybe there's a committee that deals with systemic racism, and then there's another committee that deals with environmental injustice, and there's another committee that deals with homelessness. So again, make it relevant to what you're doing, to the needs of the student body to what they really care about.
Great. Yeah.
Can I introduce myself and ask a question? My name is Jessica. I'm from the University of Texas at Arlington, and I'm kind of representing with Jose students who are looking to start a group. And from my impression, I think ultimately these kind of community initiatives are where we would be at, but really we're a very small part of the social work school, macro. And our concentration is called community and administrative practice, and there aren't that many of us. And so from my impression, and what I would like to do is get together to advocate more for the concentration and the field and organize a bit better as a group. So I didn't know if anyone had thoughts on that, on activities, even things like curriculum, advocacy, and those kinds of programmatic activities. So that's part one. My other part is I'm also working with my field placement essentially is working with a professor on a grant to start a policy education program. So it wouldn't be like a concentration, but support for students and social workers, ultimately continuing education type offerings to educate on civic engagement, policy advocacy. So if anyone here has thoughts on that aspect as well, I would love to hear more about that.
If you could see my whole body, I'd be on the edge of my seat. So, but I want to leave space for someone else to jump in because I'm like, oh, what a great question. Oh. But anyway, I want to leave space. Does anybody want to respond to Jessica before I try to just say a few headlines? But that's exciting to me.
I think it's all you, Becky. Go ahead.
All right. I know. Yeah, I know. Tamara and Alberto know me. It's like I can get going and take up space. So I'm trying to be more aware of that. But quickly, absolutely, Jessica. It's so interesting what you asked because again, some of the tactics at a couple of schools that I've been at, and I think I'll use the word tactics for the macro students was exactly to instigate, my word too, in their classrooms. So when they'd be in a class where only work with individuals was given examples of, they'd just simply raise their hand. This was their intervention. Raise their hand. Can you give me an example of how that ethical principle works out in a setting in an organization or a community? I mean, I don't mean to say it was like a challenge for faculty, but their campaign to begin with, because their school, they didn't feel they were getting exposed to it enough, was simply to ask. You know, that's what you get as a privilege as a student, right? You are absolutely there to be a learner, so you get to provoke question after question. So great, that's why I was getting exciting. It's like Professor Mizrahi, I don't know if any of you know of Dr. Mizrahi. She was on a voting in social work webinar that was hosted yesterday, and she called them, she said, I used to call the students the how come kids, you know, language, but the issue is because you can just say how come or why not all the time. You can bug you because you're a learner. You know, you're supposed to be inquisitive. So absolutely, and connected with that, I do want to say the other excitement was you are part of a movement. So a COSA. Then there's the Network for Social Work Management, and these are listed on the last slide. Then there's Influencing Social Policy. These are all social work oriented aspects of macro practice that are our membership associations. Then there's the Twitter chat collaborative every Thursday night. Hashtag MacroSW is at 9 o'clock. They have a topic and it's an hour. And then, what is it, 5 years ago, within the profession, so actually at the level of faculty, there was organizing because of the decrease in macro education
I lost your audio.
Hey, better? Can you hear me now?
Sorry, that was my fault. Go ahead.
Uh-oh. Yes? We'll try that. It's probably
You're
my
fine
handphone.
now. You're fine. That was
Okay. Anyway, I'll be quick. So 5 years ago, then within the profession itself, with power people, meaning faculty, deans and directors, the group that accredits schools of social work, there was something called the Special Commission to Advance Macro in Social Work. So there's lots of history out there, and if your group would like to tie into that, if you and students, there's tons of people that would Zoom into your classroom and talk about it. You are part of a movement in just wanting to rebalance the profession. It's not one or the other, it's all. And clinical students need experience with macro, just as you're going to use skills with individual in your work organizing. So very long-winded, but you got me at my heart. And quickly, the policy stuff. There are schools with certificate in policy practice, and I'm the field advisor to those students at Silberman, and I know at Columbia, and that's the group that's participating in social work votes. So absolutely, let's be in touch. And because there are schools that have done that, and again, influencing social policy would be a great resource. You've heard of the campaign school. Look up Voting at Social Work, all one word, and more to come. So I need to be quiet.
Thank you so much. Can you tell me what the Twitter was again? How I'm not a big Twitter. I don't use Twitter, so how do I do that?
That's right. It's #MacroSW.
Okay.
And if you see the last slide, which maybe I'll share my screen. I don't know if people have to get off. In another 5 minutes, I'll just run through the last slides and leave them up so people. And if you get we'll share the PowerPoint, but all the web page and contact information is there.
Thank you so much.
Courtney, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, no, just another suggestion for Jessica for the curriculum piece. I know Monmouth University actually has a weekly or monthly curriculum, BSW and MSW curriculum committee. And it's a way for all students, both BSW and MSW, to show up and ask questions, again, push for that movement, and all teachers are able to all participate together to really make it their own. And so that's one way to kind of advocate for the macro social work. Just a suggestion for you.
Yeah.
Great, great. Anything else out there? All right, well, Alberto, Tamarie, I want to check in. Does it make sense to just finish the slides and wind down? Do you have other thoughts before we head in that direction?
I guess my only other thought is, there are some people in the chat who are interested in starting MSWSN chapters. I would really be interested in having us follow up with them, seeing what we can do. You want to do what's within your capacity. And I know that people's capacities are compromised right now because of the pandemic, understandably. We don't want you to do more than you can, like in terms of your own, we don't want you to violate your own self-care in order to do this, which is important. It's important work, but we don't want you to violate your own self-care. So it's important to know what's within your capacity, and we can help you do that. We can help you determine what's within your capacity. We can help you prioritize and do something that is really worthwhile, not just to you, but to your school community, especially during a pandemic when many of you are not doing stuff face-to-face. You're learning and teaching remotely. So let us know how we can help you and make sure that this is well suited for the type of environment that we're in right now.
Great. Yes, please use the chat. It'll be saved. I have vision issues, so I'm not able to refer as I move through the agenda, but great. Well, let me go back to, if I can, we'll see. No, that was video. Share the final slides just to see if there are any help here. Are you seeing it, Alberto? If you can you see the slides? Great. We did practice this morning. Let's see, slideshow from first slide. Should work. Let's see. Well, Zoom, how's that? Maybe? Well, I'm just going to forward it. You'll get to see.
Just go ahead, Becky. Go.
Yeah.
You put it in slide view. You just do it this way,
Okay.
or just go down to the slide that you want, and we can see it.
So, can you see this? So these are
Yes.
the groups that we talked about. The top ones are what we tend to call United for Macro Practice, and actually this network is part of it. So there's 5 groups that we would say have come to be known as United for Macro Practice, and we're all partners, so we're all supporting each other. And what I didn't list is the Special Commission to Advance Macro Practice. They are also housed on our website, ACOSA. So Jessica, for you, I would want to make sure your school knows about the macro curricular guide. You know, the 5 years the Special Commission has happened, it got a lot of power. It was very strategic, and the accreditation group, Council on Social Work Education, actually approached the Special Commission and said, we want schools to have access to a curricular guide for macro practice. And it is free. It's it took amazing effort. It's available on our webpage, www.acosa.org, under Special Commission, and it's the macro curricular guide, and it gives examples of classroom exercises, field exercises, everything, and it's linked to the competencies. And so for faculty members that may want a resource that will help them integrate this into their classroom, that may be one route. And before I release these slides, I will try to add things if anything comes up. And Alberto and Tamarie, if you'd take notes on that, we'll add any resources that weren't on this. And then these are the voting sites and websites that are real active right now. And again, if you want to take action and start there, you could connect with any of those, and we could help you connect with them if you need to figure out how you might get involved at your area. And then the end, you know, the way to close is really, it's, you know, we are here to support. And Alberto, I don't know if you have the lineup, or Tamarie, we're going to have 2 other webinars, but beyond that, we're here for you. So we don't sort of push out our agenda. We're here to support students. And one of the things that we did last year is we shared the email addresses of all students that were on these calls, if you give permission, so that there could be even a network of students, especially if you're isolated at your school and it's hard to get energy to connect. We're trying to think of other things that we can do as a sort of support for students interested in this area. So as you have ideas, it's sort of up to you to be in touch with us, other than our webinars. So please, and we want to also amplify. If you do have events and have pictures and have a story, we'd want to post it. ACOSA has an e-blast that goes around to members and a blog, and it's sort of whatever, however we can support. And that is think, the end of what I had. Again, I'd love Tamarie and Alberto if you want to close us out and also mention the other webinars. I don't have the topics of which one.
Sure, Becky. Yeah, sure. So I really want to thank, on behalf of myself and Tamarie, I want to really thank Becky for facilitating this. This was totally her idea, and I'm really excited about the possibility of new Master Social Work student networks sprouting. And I hope some will, given that this club or this organization is basically what you make of it. It's what you want it to be. So remember, it's from your own and from your fellow student body's own kind of capacity and interests. You'll have similar missions or the same overall mission, but your goals are going to be different based on what your school does or the interests of the students. So just keep in mind that there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of creativity that goes into this. So I hope you'll consider doing it. I hope that those chapters that already exist continue to thrive. And again, I just want to thank Becky for putting this to the forefront and for facilitating such a great workshop today. We have 2 more webinars coming up. One will be in November, date to be announced. And I will be leading this one. It's about macro social work practice skills. And in fact, when we did the questionnaire that was sent to all of the 60 people that registered, macro practice skills were the most popular in terms of what people want to learn more about. So you'll get that in late November. I'm really excited to facilitate that part. The next workshop will be facilitated by Tamarie, and it's on the day in the life of a social work practitioner. So very similar to the career panel that we did last April, we'll be having hopefully a panel of wonderful macro practitioners who can talk more about what it means to be a macro practitioner. So you have these 3 webinars, and like I said, that one will take place in March during Social Work Month. So you have those 2 other webinars to look forward to. We will send you these slides. We will send you the chats, and we'll send you our emails. And if you want to reach out to us directly, if you have an idea for macro social work student network chapter but need some advice, let us know. We are here for your disposal. So, are there any last minute questions or comments, feedback?
I just wanted to make sure, are we on some kind of list now that we would get notification of these upcoming webinars, and have we been added?
Yes.
And if you don't hear from us, come right back at us. But yes, we have now a listserv, and one person actually responded and said, take me off the list from, I think it's probably a graduate or somebody who has moved on. So, but yes, as long as you allow us, until you say no, you are now part of us.
Exactly.
We gotcha.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zainab. I just really quickly wanted to say thank you. I'm a macro student at Boston University. This was really informative. I actually don't know if BU School of Social Work has a chapter, so I'm going to look into that. But this was really informative. Thank you so much for your time.
That's great.
I love that shout out. That's my alma mater for masters. So, and I'm still in touch with some of the folks there, and I know they had a chapter in the past, but I have not heard that they have a current one. Great. Tamarie, any final words of closing? You can close us out for a Friday afternoon. How's that? Oh, you're muted there.
Goodness. Yes, thank you, Becky. I just want to echo Alberto's sentiments earlier about just kind of taking care of yourself, knowing your limits. It's crazy out here, with COVID and everything else happening. So please just kind of take care of yourselves. And the fight will continue.
Great. Thank you all. Be well.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Bye, thanks. Have a nice
Thank you
weekend.
so much. Take care.
Bye. Are we saying Dr. Becky and Alberto?
Sure.
That'd be great if